Dr. Z, on today's edition of the Thrive Time Show, we are interviewing the best-selling author and the chart-topping podcast host by the name of John Lee Dumas.
Oh, who doesn't love a little JLD?
This guy, he wrote a book, and he's going to teach you in his new book here, The Proven Roadmap to Achieving Financial Freedom and Fulfillment. Aaron Antis, you run Oklahoma's largest home building company. Are you fired up about today's show?
I am, Clay. This is going to be awesome stuff.
James, you appear to be very fired up about today's show.
So fired up.
Why don't you have your clothes on?
Come on. Yeah.
It's hot in
Nobody
here.
else does.
I know this is an audio-only show, but I promise you, folks, James is fully clothed. I was just kidding.
I think he's naked underneath those clothes, though. I'm not.
That
I
is
haven't
true.
confirmed that.
Folks,
cannot
on today's
confirm
show,
that.
we're going to be interviewing the chart-topping podcast host, John Lee Dumas, about the proven roadmap to financial freedom and fulfillment. And then on part 2 of today's show, we're interviewing the prolific investor, Chris Odegard. All this and more on today's edition of the Thrive Time Show on your radio and podcast download. Z, you're smelling terrific.
Oh, and you're looking great.
Get ready to enter the Thrive Time Show.
We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we here.
We started from the bottom, now we're on the top, teaching you the systems to get what we got. Colton Dixon's on the hooks, I break down the books. Z's bringing some wisdom and the good looks. As the father of 5, that's why I'm alive. So if you see my wife and kids, please tell them hi. It's the C&Z up on your radio, and now 3, 2, 1, here we go.
We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom and
Yes, 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 and yes. Thrive Nation, it is a very special occasion, and I'll tell you why. First off, Z, it's not a special occasion because while transferring the contacts into your new phone, it took longer than expected. That's not why this is a great day.
That's not. You're right. That is not why.
But that's currently what you're dealing with.
That's the emotional baggage I'm carrying with me
We're
right now.
bringing that into the studio right now. That's not the
I'm
highlight.
trying to shake it off. Let me shake it off like Taylor Swift
because
said.
we have a
Shake it off.
cowbell in the studio, that's not the highlight. But it could be for some shows.
It could be.
But we have a
doesn't
guest
love a
on
cow?
today's show who's making his third appearance. We call that the trifecta.
Hat trick.
The hat trick here at the Thrive Time Show. This very rarely happens.
Normally they wise up after at least the second one. Not to come back on the show.
He thinks this is Oprah's show or something.
I know.
We misled him to get him on the show. But this guest, he's written a book. Now, folks, let me make sure you get this. There are certain books, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich. There are 3 books. There's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Okay? You talk about Rich Dad, Poor Dad. There's a few books that you go, that book will change your life.
Yes.
My friend and guest has written a book today that's called The Common Path to Uncommon Success, a roadmap to financial freedom and fulfillment. I believe that this book might join into that top 10 list, that top 5 list for many people, or it might be the most incredible buildup I've ever done for a Nothing Burger book. John Lee Dumas, welcome on to the Thrive Time Show. How are you, sir?
Started from the bottom, now we're here. I mean, how many of your listeners literally just can't get that song out of their head? It is so catchy. You're a rock star.
Okay.
A lot of therapy. A lot of therapy to get that out of head.
I just
A
wanna
lot
get
of
it out of my
therapy.
head.
We get fruitcakes and thank you cards from therapists all across the nation.
So let's talk about this for a second. Just a quick backstory for the listeners that don't know. How long ago did you start podcasting? And then how long did it take before you became the international sensation that you are today, known as the host of the Entrepreneurs on Fire podcast?
9 years ago, I identified a void in the podcasting space. There was no daily podcast interviewing entrepreneurs. And I wanted that show, Clay. It didn't exist. I said, I'm going to do it. And for 2,000 days in a row, 5.5 years, I released a daily episode. I'm now speaking to you at 3,000 plus episodes, over 100 million listens. And I'd say it was about at episode 480 that I became the podcasting guy, right around there.
And so as you were recording those shows, so often, Z, people will start a blog.
Sure.
And they'll write 7. And they're like, what's the number of completion?
I mean,
and I'm not feeling good today. I have the sniffles. or their phone, their contacts.
Or they only have
sync.
like 12 followers. They're like,
Whoa,
frick it, man, I
and
can't
then
do
their
it.
mom says, hey, how's that going with your podcast? You've done like 7 shows. Do you have any? Have you monetized
You got
it
much
yet?
traction?
And then they start watching videos about these online scammers saying they got rich in 7 minutes by recording 7 podcasts. And they start to go, I'm just going to quit. What kept you going, John Lee Dumas?
Listen, I had this vision of a show that had to be created, and I just wanted to create that show. And one thing that I will say is, for my personal zone of fire, where I operate the best, it's talking to amazing people. So when I get the Clay Clarks on the other line, the Tim Ferrisses, the Gary Vaynerchuks, the Seth Godins, the Tony Robbins of the world, I'm on fire, brother. I'm having this conversation. This is exactly where I want to be. So why would I ever stop doing that? I love having these conversations. I love talking to people like yourself. It just fires me up.
Now, how did
Clay, you see? Hold on a second.
What
you
was
see what
it?
he did there?
What did he do?
I mean, you see what he did?
What did he do?
What I
I mean, right out of the shot. Right out of the block.
Oh, let me hit the
I
boo
mean,
button.
right. I
Maybe
mean,
he did, dirty
I mean,
move.
no,
Hit
that
the
wasn't a boo. It was
Oh,
a
no.
good thing.
My
No,
bad.
no, what he did. The first guy he mentioned that he was excited to have on his show was Clay Clark.
Obviously.
I've never met that Clay Clark.
I-
I've never met that one. He's probably a great guy.
Obviously. Come on.
Now I want to ask you though, seriously, you then started booking big time guests for the listeners out there, and then I want to talk about your book. How did you go about booking big time guests? Because so many people tell me they try to start a podcast, and the challenge is booking big time guests. How did you go about booking big time guests?
A lot of things. Number one, let me just start off and say this. Back in 2012, the podcasting landscape was different. There was a handful, and I mean literally a handful. That's 5 business podcasts. So there wasn't this overwhelm of competition that was out there.
Got it.
Number 2, I waited. I was patient. I didn't go after the big guests at first. I waited till they were in what's called promotion mode. I waited till Tim Ferriss was about to launch 4-Hour Chef. I waited till Seth Godin was launching the Icarus Deception. I waited till Gary Vaynerchuk was about to launch Jab, 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 Right Hook. Then I pounced. Then I said, hey, I've got this little show called Entrepreneurs on Fire. Here's my approximate listens per episode, and you would be a perfect fit for my audience. They would love your book. Can you come on my show to talk about it? Because they would love it. So I was patient and I waited. And you're so right, Clay. Everybody talks about that. Like, how do I get the big guests on my show? Listen, I run Podcasters Paradise, the biggest podcasting community in the world. I see it with every person that joins. And I say the same thing because, listen, I was an Army officer for 8 years. I can tell it straight when they need to hear it. And they need to hear it. I'm like, you're not ready for a big guest. You're not ready for the Gary Vaynerchuks, the Tim Ferrisses of the world, and whatever that is in your niche. Because frankly, you're not that good at podcasting right now. And why would you be? But why would you be? You just started. Nobody's just born great at X, Y, or Z. You've got to put in the flipping reps, man. I was doing a daily show for 480 days in a row before I considered myself good. And not great. I'm saying good. So that's what I tell people. You've got to be willing to put in the reps. You've got to get in there, hustle, practice, hone your craft, actually get good at what you do so that you could actually rap with the people you want to rap with. I mean, that's how you grow into a place where you're ready and willing to have those great big guests that you think are going to make or break your show.
What I'm going to do now is I'm going to transition into what we call the danger zone, the thunder round.
While you're doing that, I'm gonna go over here and I'm going to go over here and do a few reps.
You do
So
pop
I
it
will
down.
go up and do a few reps back behind me. Okay, you can
I'm
join me
going
later.
to go to the thunder round.
I'm
This is
gonna
how
pump myself up.
This is how the thunder round works. Okay.
Okay, thunder. Here
So
we go.
Andrew, we'll make sure Aaron does it. You want to go to my Amazon.com account right now, Aaron.
Okay.
And you're going to look up the book, The Common Path to
There we
Uncommon
go.
Success.
There we go.
And you want to get to where you have the ability to buy a copy of the book. Now, listen, if he answers the question wrong, I'm going to ask some tough questions.
Oh, you always do.
We're not going to buy a book. But every time you get one of these answers, that you satisfy the answer correctly, we're going to buy a copy of the book. And that's how we're going to
I
do
think
it.
that's fair.
Is that fair?
I think it's fair.
Okay, and then, but before we do that, just to give you a chance there, John Lee Dumas, to mentally prepare yourself and to calibrate yourself, I want to give you a softball question just to get started, and then we'll get going.
You might want to stretch a little bit right now.
Here we go. Let me
John.
just kind of.
There we go.
I'm stretching too.
Why did
drink
you
some
move
water.
to Puerto Rico? Is this a warm-up softball? Then we'll get into your book.
Was it A, the women, 2, the fishing, or 3, fishing for women?
Fishing for women.
Well, since I moved here with my fiance,
No. Yeah. It would have to be D for financial reasons, right?
Listen, I'm all about, which is, by the way, chapter 17 in my book, keeping the money you make. I moved to Puerto Rico because I was sick and tired of paying 51% taxes in California. Boom, Puerto Rico. Thank you.
What's the program that allows you to reduce your taxes? For people that don't know, they can look it up later.
It's called Act 60. Just Google Act 60 Puerto Rico. You move your business to Puerto Rico.
Yep.
You incorporate down here. It's not a difficult process. It's basically like another state, except since it's not a state, you pay no federal tax, no state tax, just a flat 4% corporate tax.
Okay. All right. So here we go. We're getting into the book now. Rude questions. Somebody out there, Aaron, how much is the book right now to buy the book on Amazon?
It is $25.99.
Okay, so someone's thinking about putting $25.99 into a book.
Yeah.
Or you could go out and have some sushi.
Well, you could.
Like for lunch.
Right.
So we're going, why should I fast from sushi to afford this book? What if this book sucks? So what inspired you to write the book, sir?
Listen, I've interviewed over 3,000 successful entrepreneurs, the Clay Clarks of the world, the Tony Robbins, the Gary Vaynerchuks. I've learned from every single one of them, and I've identified 17 core components they all possess. I've identified the path that they've taken, and I wrote this down into a 17-step roadmap to financial freedom and fulfillment. Every step is a chronological step along the way. Clay, you can look at the table of contents. You will see the 17 steps listed out, steps 1 to 17. You've taken and mastered every single one. And if people follow in your footsteps, in my footsteps, and the other 3,000 plus entrepreneurs I've interviewed footsteps, they will find their version of uncommon success.
Let's do this. Let's say my next question is, I'm going to buy a book. That was a good answer.
Okay, hold on. Let me give a little sound effect.
Okay, so Aaron, you're buying a book. We have one book sold.
Hey, we're at 2 pre-orders now, total.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. We've doubled it.
Beautiful.
There we go.
Now here's the deal.
Here we go.
We know that this book is with a big time publisher, isn't it? Didn't you team up with a publisher? HarperCollins. Okay, so you teamed with HarperCollins. That's good stuff. That checks a couple boxes. But here we go. Give us 2 steps, maybe even 3, but at least 2 steps from your book that would wow us. And if we are wowed, we'll buy another copy of the book.
I think that's fair.
Listen, I'm going to give you 2 steps. I'm going to preface the 2 steps with chapter 1, step 1, which is identifying your big idea. I'm not going to get into that or the why, but I'm going to tell you why people fail after they identify their big idea. They don't discover their niche within that big idea. Because guess what? You've had a big idea. We've all had big ideas. So you're probably not alone. It's probably not unique. Chapter 2, step 2 shows you in this incredibly detailed and unique way how to discover the niche within that big idea that's not being currently exploited, like I did with my 7-day-a-week podcast back in 2012, like Clay's done so many times, and you have to go listen to the podcast on EO Fire to hear how he's done that over and over again. The second part is step 7, which is chapter 7. Clay, I sat down. Most of these chapters are 3,000 to 5,000 words. It's a 71,000 page, 71,000 word book total,
Whoa.
Which is massive. 273 pages. This is a meaty book. Most chapters are 3,000 to 5,000. I sat down with step 7, chapter 7, and I wrote 13,500 words. I couldn't even believe it was that long when I finished it, but every single word had to be in there. And it is creating your content production plan. Clay, the reason why I've won at such a high level, I have a content production plan that is beast mode. 2,000 episodes, 2,000 days, 3,000 episodes in 9 years, beast mode. And guess what? You're beast mode with your content production plan. It's tops. It's on point. You figured it out. 99% of entrepreneurs across the board have either no or a crappy content production plan. This one chapter could be a book in and of itself, will get your content production plan to pure beast mode, and you'll dominate as a result.
You know what I've discovered through listening to your show, working with clients, etc. Z, is nothing is more sad than watching an entrepreneur who has a great skill set, is hardworking, who chooses the wrong niche. And Michael Gerber, who we've had on our show, explains this. But he says when you go to a parking lot, you want to park where there's an open space.
That's
you don't want to just keep ramming your Volvo right into the other car, demanding that space.
Is this space taken?
And so let me give the listeners an example. One of my clients and a good friend, he started a company called Flow Photos, OKC.com. Andrew, put it on the big screen. Flow Photos, OKC.com. And he does real estate photography. And the thing is, there's a lot of realtors that need photos.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of jackasses in the photography space. None of our listeners. None of your listeners.
But
But
thrivers.
there are a lot of people. No, seriously, realtors will say, I booked the photographer and I paid them and they didn't show up.
Ooh.
And what Ryan does is he shows up and he takes great photos. He's mastered the editing process. And so what's happening now is people love it and they come back and bring friends. And he says, Clay, it's less than $15,000 to get in the business. I should license this out all over the country. We say, you should.
You should.
And it's working.
Oh, my
And for under 15 grand, you can buy a business. It's a cool thing for him. Yeah. OxyFresh, the carpet cleaning thing.
We love that.
John Barnett didn't invent carpet cleaning.
He didn't?
But it's the world's greenest carpet cleaning. And right now, I'm just telling you, folks, if you pick up a copy of JLD's book and you've been stuck for – it's sad, by the way, when you meet people who've been stuck for 25 years.
Because they get it maybe to whatever step. I mean, he has 17. So let's say they're on 10, and then all of a sudden they go, what do I do now?
So let's talk about your optometry just to personify this. Your optometry clinic.
We help you see better.
You're open how many days a week?
Yes, we do.
How
7.
And 7 days a week?
Because I can't find an 8th. If I could find an 8th day to be open,
and you get 2/7 of the business because you're open on the days everyone else is closed.
Oh, I love it. Oh, most of them were half a day on Friday. Come on now. I mean, we got to get to the late.
But, I mean, your niche is that you are affordable.
Yes.
And you're open 7 days a week?
Oh, you know it.
And
Walk-ins
it
welcome.
like
Come on in, John. John Lee, we'll take care of you.
Did you say
Hey,
Joaquin?
the Beatles found 8 days a week. I don't know why you can't.
I know. I think because they're European. I
Okay,
don't know.
I'm going to buy another.
Different across the
I'm
pond.
going to buy another copy of the book because that idea right there has helped so many
Ring
people.
that bell.
Here we go.
Ring the bell, baby.
There we go.
Now,
baby.
folks, you got to ask yourself.
Oh, another one. Cool.
Now, listen,
Oh,
folks.
yeah.
If you got to ask yourself, what are you missing by not getting this book? Now, I've done a lot of shows.
Success.
I've done a lot of
Money.
shows. See, we've interviewed a lot of great authors on this show. We've had Sharon Lecter.
Oh, yeah.
From Rich Dad Poor
Oh, yeah.
Dad on here.
That was great.
We've had Michael Gerber on here. We've had John Maxwell. And I have never shamelessly pitched a book this hard.
You have. In
And
fact,
I'm not
in
going
fact,
to
we've
ever
already
do it
bought-
again, probably.
This is the first multi-book deal we've done, John.
So-
I mean,
so
we're
see?
we're up to 2
freaking
books.
hot.
It's on fire.
Folks, you're going to burn your retinas looking at that thing. You'll have to see an optometrist after you pick up this book. See, you're going to get some business out
We're
of this.
vertically integrated now.
See,
I love this.
what
This
tough
is good
question
stuff.
do you have for JLD?
Well,
Bring it on. Bring it on, brother.
I love that. 480 till you said I'm there. I mean, people do the math. I mean, this is just math.
Math.
That's over a year. That's over a year. How did you sustain your life during that year? Because that's the thing that gets a lot of people in trouble. They're like, well, I got this great idea and I'm going to roll with it.
Just run
but
some
I gotta
drugs
eat
on the
and pay
weekends.
electricity. I got to mule cocaine, man. I got to do something. I got these balloons really this many. I mean, what did you do? What was your move
Listen.
in the early day?
I have 3 words for you.
Okay.
Batching like a baller. Those are 3 words. Like is 1 word.
Wow.
Batching like a baller. That's what I did. Did I wake up every single day for 480 days or AKA 2,000 days, which I did for 5.5 years in a row and say, I'm going to do an interview today with a successful entrepreneur? Absolutely not. I would have failed doing that. So what did I do? I batched like a baller. Just like the great football players get up every Sunday and they go all out 1 day per week.
Oh, yeah.
Then they rest and recuperate the other 6 days. Every Tuesday for 5.5 years was sacred. I did 8 interviews every Tuesday for 5.5 years. So guess what? I was sick occasionally on Thursdays and Saturdays, and I felt like not doing anything on a Monday or a Wednesday. No matter what happened in my life, every Tuesday I woke up and I said, by the time the sun sets
Showtime.
today, I will have 8 interviews complete with 8 amazing entrepreneurs, and that will be how I maintain my daily show for 5.5 years. And I always stayed at least 45 days ahead. So if something crazy happened, like Hurricane Maria back in 2017 that just destroyed this island, I was buffered and I never missed a day. Batching like a baller.
Buffered and batching like a baller. So this was Tuesday morning in the John Lee Dumas household. He'd wake up.
Okay,
Oh, wait, you've got me muted.
I didn't mean to mute you. I'm ready. Here we go.
Here's his alarm going off. John Lee, it's Tuesday. It's showtime, John. You need to get up and
Coffee, John.
get ready. Remember, your goal today is 8, not 7, not 6, but 8 great shows. And you can do it, John Lee Dumas. because as John Lee Dumas, I believe in John Lee Dumas. I bet that was
I
that
like
your
what you did
alarm?
there.
Was that your alarm
that your
every
alarm?
Tuesday?
Listen, it wasn't a goal, by the way. It was going to happen.
Oh,
You have
yeah.
to understand, a goal is something that people strive for, they want to accomplish. This was already happened in my mind. There was nothing that could happen that was stopping that.
I love it. I love that.
Now, let me do
It
this.
goes also when you kick the ball in the net, I think, too. I mean, that's
Now Aaron, I'm gonna go to you. You can ask your next question.
Yeah.
Should JLD get it right, we'll buy another copy of the book.
Okay.
So far, we've purchased
wow,
3,
lot
I
of-
believe.
lot of
and then
pressure.
James, you can ask a tough question too.
All right.
But I have another. It's kind of a softball.
Okay.
A lot of people say, "Is this book written for me? Is it written for a lot of times there's books Z on like how to break out of a terrible addiction cycle, and we buy it for our friend Carl.
yeah. How to break out of prison.
We're like, Carl,
And we
this
buy
is
that
for you.
yeah.
How to win friends and influence people. We're like, this is for you, Carl.
Breaking out of prison.
So,
the
was
dummy
it-
version.
So was this book written for Scottish rappers, Middle Eastern mariachis,
If you don't have a
Caucasian
bagpipe,
bobsled
don't buy
teams?
this book. Period.
If you don't have a backup plan?
No, a bagpipe. If you don't have a bagpipe,
Oh.
don't buy the book.
Oh.
Oh,
yeah,
who's
there
this
you
book
go.
written for? Who should pick it up?
Listen, if you in this world desire financial freedom and fulfillment, this book is for you. As your co-host eloquently said, there are 17 steps. Somebody's on step 10 right now, and they don't know what the next step is. Somebody's on step 14 right now, and they screwed the pooch on steps 2, 7, and
Yeah,
9,
yeah.
period. You need to go back. You need to start on step 1, identifying your big idea. I'm not going to go into super details here, but listen, at least validate if you're actually working in your big idea. If you are, awesome, go to step 2. If you're not, maybe a tweak and a pivot will change so much. And every step is just that. It's either validating or it's tweaking, adjusting, pivoting to get where you need to be to go to steps 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 17. So this book is for those people who want financial freedom and fulfillment. And here is where I get a little controversial. And I know your listeners, they've got some tough skin if they need it, but this is the truth. I'm just going to drop it on them. If you read this book and apply the 17 steps and 3 to 6 months go by and you've been applying these principles and you haven't achieved some version of uncommon success, give up. And I really mean give up. I don't mean give up in life. No, listen, I don't mean give up in life. I mean, becoming an entrepreneur is just not for you. And that's a good thing to find out. Now, are any of Clay Clark's listeners not meant to be entrepreneurs? Of course not. But I am talking to people out there who are going to pick up this book thinking this might be for them. After 6 months, they're like, I just can't get any traction. Well, then they need to go be something else. The number 2, the number 10, because by the way, the number 37 employee at Facebook is worth a lot more money than Clay, myself combined will ever be, because they found their thing and they're crushing it. So many people just need to figure out what is their thing. For a lot of us, and probably everybody listening right now, there is entrepreneurial financial freedom and fulfillment in your future if you want it, if you follow this process, if you keep listening to Clay and consume great content like this book, etc. But it's not for everybody. This entrepreneurial life is not for everybody. So why not find out sooner than later? For people that are on the fence about entrepreneurship, you'll know in 6 months for sure if you can make it. Because if you can't apply these principles and make it, forget about it.
JLD, I'm a curious guy. And you said something that got me very curious.
Okay.
How far down do you think on the org chart of Facebook do we need to go to we're, getting Clay and I's level? I mean, is it like 100?
The janitor's
I mean,
rocking
37.
millions.
You called out the
It's
37 guy. I mean, how far down that org chart do you think
It's
we
into
need
the
to
10,000s for sure. I mean, their stock's up like over 144,000% or something. It's insane.
Real quick, Aaron, we're going to go to you. JLD, I believe he said earlier, tweak and pivot. That was Aaron Antis' nickname in high school. Tweak and pivot.
How'd JLD know that?
Aaron, you run Oklahoma's largest home building company, the largest home building company in this room
that we know of?
that we know of. What question do you have for JLD?
Yeah, John, great to have you on here. And
Thank you.
I'm excited to get this book, by the way. I love to read books, especially about entrepreneurship. On the chapter number 5 is Find Your Mentor.
Yes.
And I feel like I've been very, very fortunate. I happened to grow up 5 doors down from the vice president of sales of the largest home building company in America. And almost married his daughter, which is a different story. But like, not everybody grows up 5 doors down from somebody
No.
who can mentor them in the business that they're interested in, which I was interested in home building. So tell me a little bit about that, because I know a lot of people that I know that haven't found success. It's because they haven't found somebody who can really help, bring them down the shortcuts that are already there. They don't stand upon the shoulders of giants. And so tell me about that, about finding your mentor.
Okay, so number one, Clay Clark needs to be your mentor, but he only has 160 spots, so it can't be for everybody. So when that's not an option, finding your mentor to me is very simple and very clear for most people out there. You need to find somebody who is currently where you want to be, preferably in around 1 to 2 years ahead of you. So when I was back in thinking about starting a business podcast, I was going to ideally find a successful business podcast host who was about 1 to 2 years into his or her journey. Because guess what? That's where I wanted to be. I wanted to be a successful business podcast host. I found her, Jamie Masters, the eventual millionaire. She was a successful business podcast host. And guess what? She had been doing it long enough where she had the experience, the knowledge, the understanding to guide me every step of the way. But at the same time, she wasn't too far removed to not be able to remember what it was like to start. And it was relevant too, because she had been there within a year and a half. So I could actually ask her for what advice should I listen to? What things should I avoid? She could guide me every step of the way. She was connected in the podcasting industry, introducing me to the luminaries that were currently there. That allowed me to win because I found the right mentor who's currently where I wanted to be. Like, that's the key part.
Yeah.
And that's why you got so lucky living 5 doors down for somebody in the industry that you're now dominating.
Yeah.
You found the mentor who is currently where you wanted to be. And now you're either there or you're on your path.
Z, let's do this for a second.
Okay, let's do it.
Someone who is where I want to be is David Copperfield. He has subliminal abilities to trick audiences.
Magic.
So what I'm going to do is I am going to use subliminal powers to convince the listeners to do something, Z. And I want you to see if you can guess as to what I'm trying, Aaron, to get the listeners to do. Z will help me with the echo technology. And you can just see if you can sort of sift through the subliminal messaging.
Okay.
Definitely buy the book, The Common Path to Uncommon Success by John Lee Dumas. There's no coding here on a literal, practical, definite way, level, pragmatic. For sure, there's no smoke and mirrors. What I'm saying is definitely pick up a copy of The Common Path to Uncommon Success by John Lee Dumas. You might be saying to yourself, what do you mean? What is it that you're really trying to convey using this
actually not really
ESP technology, this kung fu grip on the human mind?
I think I'm clear.
You might be wondering, to yourself, what exactly am I trying to push
not
on all the listeners?
I'm really not.
You want to pick up a
wondering.
copy. You might be saying, is this me? Surely he's not talking to me.
I think you want me to buy the book.
You need to pick up a copy of the Common Path to Uncommon Success by John Lee Dumas.
Yeah.
Aaron, can you decode it?
You want me to buy the book?
I can.
No.
Yeah. No. Oh.
No, I'm not going to push our listeners like that.
Okay.
Okay, I'm not going to be shameless.
Hold on.
You got it wrong.
Hold on. I've got one thing to say about all that.
Okay. Oh, there's
That wasn't the message.
Oh, yeah.
That just happened.
That's good.
This
The
is
message
escalating
was, what I
quickly.
was saying was, if you care about yourself, pick up the book,
Oh.
The Common Path to Uncommon Success.
Well,
If
that
Aaron extrapolated
clears up a lot of
incorrectly,
stuff.
I will go watch more Copperfield videos. We have time for one more question here. James, you're an attorney from Manhattan.
Yes.
You have chosen not to run drugs as a career.
That's right.
Or to run
So
armed.
far.
So far. This is the wise choices you've made. You have you've moved here from Manhattan. You're an attorney. You have clients all over the country. You could ask an all due respect question where you actually are not asking a question. You're just attacking the guest. You could do that. There's a lot of mainstream media that does that.
Oh, yeah.
Or you can ask a sincere question. We'll see what you do. What do you have?
Okay. So nice to meet you, John. Happy to be on the show with you. Okay, so I started writing down a question about batch like a baller, right?
Cool.
And I noticed the way that you spell it is 3 words rather than 4 words.
Yes.
And then I noticed that your name is also 3 words. You know, your 3-word name, John Lee Dumas.
3-letter.
Oh, so three-word name, John Lee Dumas. And then there are also like Sarah Jessica Parker. There's a lot of other people that you have good company with.
Oh.
You're in that elite club.
Tiffany
Tom-
Amber Dyson.
Tom-
She's my young high school crush.
Oh, okay.
Carl Eugene Watts, the serial killer, also.
No.
Just saying.
Why do you know that?
What a sick
You just freaked me out.
Unbelievable.
You just freaked me out right there.
They used to call him Tweak and
Pivot.
Tweak and Pivot. That's why he got that nickname. Okay.
And then you got Philip Seymour Hoffman. You know, you're a member of that elite group, the elite group of the 3 named names. Who's your favorite contemporary within that group? I would say the 3 named names.
The 3 names.
The 3 names. The 3. Ooh, that's a good question right there. The 3
I mean,
name
I just
club.
have to. I wish I hadn't said it while you were talking because it is the truth. Is my high school crush, the Bayside High School Saved by the Bell actress Tiffany Amber Thyssen. She's tops for me. She's number 10.
She stalks you?
In my dreams, she stalked me.
Wow.
Well, she
okay.
might not be able to afford a plane ride out to Puerto Rico. I mean, so that could be an issue.
Hey,
you
final
know?
question for the listeners out there. Seriously,
pay her plane.
tell us what is your website for people who want to learn more about you, and then for people who may be just hearing your voice for the first time. What's your website, and then how big are the avocados in Puerto Rico?
I'm going to answer that in the opposite direction. So they're the size literally of melons. I mean, bigger than my head. These avocados are massive. My neighbor grows them, by the way. And then she makes us, because she's 87 years old, and we have to ship them via FedEx to all of her family all over the U.S. And we don't have the heart to tell her how much it costs because it's unbelievably costly. But it brings her so much joy. For us to ship these avocados, and we just end up telling her it's like 25 cents each. She thinks it's just a postage stamp. So, just a little shout out to Anne Marie for sure.
Anne Marie,
listen, we're going all out in this book. This is a 9-year culmination of all these interviews that I've done, the 17-step roadmap. And if you want this book, you're not just getting a book for the $17 Kindle or the $25 hardcover. We have 5 insane bonuses that we're attaching for pre-orders only. They all disappear, by the way, when the book launches. One of them, if anybody's watching on video right now, all 3 of my journals, my physical journals that have sold cumulatively over $1 million on Amazon. It's $150 worth of physical journals. We are shipping to your door for a pre-order. So Clay, you got 15 journals coming your way right now with your 5 current orders. It's just getting crazy.
Ship it
now. Ship it. That's just one of the bonuses. I'm shipping all 3 of my journals to your door. So you're getting this amazing book, these amazing journals about goals, about productivity, discipline, focus, and podcasting, all of that. All you need to do is visit uncommonsuccessbook.com.
uncommonsuccessbook.com. Go there, and you're going to have the journals shipped to you. You're going to get the book. And if you
maybe an avocado.
Maybe an avocado. Now, here's
They're
the
only
deal, folks.
25 cents a
Now,
ship.
if you say, listen,
apparently.
I don't care about my financial future, I don't want to get ahead, and all you want to do is
I don't
ship
like
your
myself.
pants. All you want to do is ship your pants. We go to Walmart.com and you just order some pants and they'll ship them to you.
They'll ship.
You
You
can
can
ship your
ship your
pants.
What was
pants.
that website again?
Walmart.com.
WAL1LMART.
JLD, what was your website one more time?
uncommonsuccessbook.com.
Oh, yes. Well, hey, brother, I appreciate you for agreeing to be on the show. I know you're a busy guy. You have a lot of opportunities. It means a lot that you'd say yes to be a guest on the Thrive Time show. We really do appreciate you and hope you have a great rest of your day. Dr. Z, it's always ecstasy when you are next to me. How are you, sir?
Right back at ye.
You know, Z,
And I'll tell you what, I'm excited because you know what?
I'm feeling the
That's
flow.
what, that is one of the biggest questions I get from entrepreneurs, successful ones, is I got a little do-re-mi. Now, what do I do with it?
What do I do with it?
What
Now,
do I do with it?
What do I do with
What
it?
do I
Now,
do?
here's what we did. On part 1 of today's show, we interviewed John Lee Dumas, who shared with us how to make some money. Now, on part 2, it's like, how do you invest the money that you've made?
Right.
And if it's okay, Aaron Antis, if it's okay,
Yes, sir.
based upon the power given to you by the room,
Yes.
the council we have, we call this the council, starting now.
The council.
Okay.
Starting right now.
Based on the power you have, is it okay if we ask today's guest some rude questions?
I think we should. I mean,
James, you're an attorney. Are you okay with that?
As a
That's
member
what
of
they
the
do.
as a member of the Man Cave Council, yes. I'm
Okay,
with
so here we go. I'm going to
MCC.
ask the guest rapid fire questions. We might have him on again if he answers properly.
You know,
we
it's
might
MCC.
not. We have a man by the
lot
name
of
of
pressure.
he goes by the rap name, the prolific investor. He's known as the prolific investor,
Wow.
and his name is Chris Odegard. Chris, welcome on to the Thrive Time Show. How are you, sir?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me on. I just want to get to the point where I can have my own rap song as an introduction.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Well, Chris, I got to ask you this real quick. Where can people learn more about you? Because people want to look you up while you're talking here. So where can people learn more about you?
You can go to theprolificinvestor.net, and all things theprolificinvestor.net are there. I'm on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, so all the links and everything is there. You can get to it all from that site.
Now, Z, a lot of people invest in something that quickly loses all value, and that would be called a casino. Chris,
Ponzi scheme.
What is a Ponzi scheme? So, Chris, what is the most common bad investment that you see?
Well, I'm going to say there are two types of investments, and the big category is conventional investments, and those are stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, and just cash and CDs, and that's where the majority of people keep their money, and that's actually not the best place to do it.
So the worst place, in your opinion, from your experience, to put money is in just cash, you're saying?
Well, I think a casino is actually worse. But those conventional investments are not, I wouldn't call them the worst. There are people that make money there, but there are way better places to put your money.
Okay, so let's identify maybe the three best places to put our money, and then could you briefly identify why it is that you are qualified to give us this information? Because, see, we've all met a guy named Sneaks at the casino.
Behind the Reesers.
Yeah, he's behind the Reesers over there, and he's trying to flag you down. He has a story. He says, hey, can I get a ride? You say, sure. He says, here's the deal. My Mercedes was stolen, and I just need a ride back to the casino. Complicated
my
story.
other Mercedes is parked.
And then he has a story while you're driving. He's like, here's the deal. I mean, I've invested a lot on this, and this has happened. This big thing's going on, and we only have time for two more investors before we close this round.
It's always a round
of funding, and he doesn't have a car.
And one of them's on the phone right now. So.
And his name is Sneaks. That's a code word. If his name is Sneaks, be leery. That's a tip. So, Chris, what gives you credibility in the listeners' minds, you think?
Well, I had followed the conventional wisdom for most of my life, got a college degree and got a job and benefits, and I put my money in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds through IRAs and 401ks. And then about 2008, something happened, and it was called an illiquidity event. And that's when you lose a whole bunch of your money. And in my case, it was something called a divorce. And in addition to the 55% of my assets, it was thousands of dollars going out the door each month. And so, if I was going to, not work until I died, I was going to have to either work longer or take really high risk or just get smarter about investing. And so I entered the world of alternative investments, which is really everything than what I mentioned before, everything other than stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. So that includes things like real estate, precious metals, energy, and all those things have tremendous advantages over the conventional assets. And within 10 years, I had made all that money back and multiplied it many times over and retired. And now I don't have to work if I don't want to. And a lot of people might find themselves in a situation, maybe not as drastic as that one, but just looking down the road and going, I don't know how I'm going to get there.
So tell us,
those are my qualifications.
What are the three best investments that you believe in? And then as a round table, we will attempt to destroy your credibility and to ask you such rude questions that you will leave confused and angry. All right. So, what are your three best investment areas we should all look to invest in?
I'll tell you what. I'll give you two, and we'll just start with those two. First of all, real estate, primarily in the way of apartment buildings. And the second one, believe it or not, is a category called business machines, and they're automated teller machines. So those are two of my favorite investments that perform very well. So shoot them down.
Z, I'll let you tear it down.
Well, on a scale of 1 to 10, Chris, where do you put muling drugs as a strategy
One,
to
you swallow the balloons.
or a strategy to get some wealth? Where do you put that on the scale of 1 to 10?
10 being the best, right?
Yeah.
Negative 13.5.
Ooh, so that's not good. Clay, I keep telling you that.
Just one more balloon.
We're trying to monetize Thrive Time Show, and we're just looking for ways. We're throwing darts at a board. Throwing darts.
Oh.
Chris, what was the if a guy said, "Listen, I wanted to walk up to you and I wanted to get into cryptocurrency." That's kind of the hot buzzword right now going around. What would you throat punch him? Would you slap him? Would you get him in a headlock? Would you say, "Oh no, I got the cryptocurrency for you"? What would you advise him? What would you say?
Well, there is definitely money to be made in cryptocurrency, but all the coins and all cryptocurrency projects are not the same. So one of the things you need if you're going to go into alternative assets is you need a little bit of financial education. You can't just open up an account within 30 minutes and start buying and selling stocks and mutual funds without knowing anything. So yeah, there is money to be made in cryptocurrency. Absolutely.
Do you play in that market at all?
I do. Yes, I do a little bit. And it's one of those areas of the marketplace where I consider it's pretty high risk, and it's volatile.
Right.
But it's like Bitcoin. This is a place where you want to, at least I feel like putting a small amount of my portfolio on what I call where you're swinging for the fence is the grand slam. So
right.
This is where a small investment like $5,000 or $10,000 could go 10 or 20x, and you have an enormous upside but very
right.
little downside.
So what percentage of one's portfolio would you recommend, or at what level you say that's too much? Just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%. Where someone says, "Listen, I want to play in the cryptocurrency. All my friends are making money in cryptocurrency, making money.
Well, I would keep the things that are like that, cryptocurrency being one of them, where you're swinging for the fence, this high risk but high return. I would tend to keep those at 10% or less of my portfolio.
Okay, 10% or less. Very good. All right.
And just so we're clear, when he said swinging for the fences, that was not advocating swinging or fences as an investment opportunity.
You don't think so?
The swinging culture or fencing investments.
It's like the Federal Reserve.
I've always wanted to learn how to fence. I got a sword. I just don't have the training for it.
I'm saying this because this. A lot of people hop on podcasts. They give this advice that doesn't make any sense. So I just have to say, investing always freaks me out. For me personally, because I see so many people that put a lot of money into something that doesn't work, and I just woo. So I'm gonna, Aaron, ask any rude questions that you want of Chris Odegard, and then I have a super rude question for him.
Sure. So you typically do things that are the financial investments, not necessarily real estate. Is that correct?
No, I do real estate. Yes.
Okay.
That is one of the best ones ever created.
Sure. I have a friend who recently was offering me some swampland in Florida, and I was just wondering if that is a good investment or not.
Or a bridge in New York.
Yeah. No, I'm totally kidding. Totally kidding. But for the person who is wanting to do real estate investing, how would you help them through that process? What would be your part in that?
Well, I would offer resources, places where they can go and find things. But the first thing is a conversation about, where are you today? Where do you want to go? What type of investing do you want to do? How hands-on or how hands-off do you want to be? You could go out and buy a single-family rental, and you could manage it yourself, and you could, clean the toilets and fix the plumbing and do the electrical. Or you could go to what's called a turnkey housing provider in a state that you don't even live in, and you could purchase a house that's already got tenants in it and is already being managed by a property management company that specializes in managing thousands of single-family rentals in that part of the country.
Do you have a book that you recommend?
It's funny you should ask. I have a book that's coming out. It's I hope I can say this on the phone. It's got a little 3-letter word in it. That's not too terrible. It's called "Get Off Your Ass and Manage Your Money: Why You Need Alternative Investments," and that should be out within the next 90 days.
And is there another book that you have read in the past about investing that you thought was helpful to wake you up to the possibilities of investing?
Well, the book that woke me up, and this story has been repeated by many people I've met, and even some I haven't, is Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh, yeah.
And the other book is by Robert Kiyosaki, is one called Cash Flow Quadrant. And I'll give you a third one because this book really goes into the depth about the problems with the conventional investments. It's called 401 Chaos. It's 401 and then in parentheses K and then AOS. And it's by Andy Tanner. And if that's the book that will might get you motivated if you're stuck in that conventional area, at least completely stuck. I mean, 100% in there.
Final 60 seconds. I have two questions, one from me and one from the attorney, James. Mine is, how do you make money on this? I mean, if we have a listener that reaches out to you, do you charge fees? Are you looking for investors? Are you do you make commissions? Do you sell books? How do you monetize sharing your wisdom with the world?
Right now, I don't monetize at all. I am just trying to change the world one blog article and one video at a time. The way I would hope to make some money is by the book that's coming out. You can go on my website and get a free consultation with me, and if that turns into some kind of a regular thing, I will certainly do consulting, for a fee. I haven't done any of that yet, but not opposed to it.
Okay, so James, the attorney, we have time for one final question. We got about 60 seconds on the clock. What questions do you have, sir? Question do you have?
Oh, question. Hi, nice to meet you. I have a question about the return versus the risk. I mean, is it true that the higher the risk, the higher return? I mean, I would say not in every instance, but do you have a general view on that?
Yeah, I've created something called the hierarchy of investors, which is a pyramid. It's kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And if you can picture in the shadow of the pyramid is the conventional investments, where you can kind of expect to get maybe 10% or less. And then as you climb up the pyramid, I have all the advantages and disadvantages. And one of the things I talk about is risk. And generally people think that, in some cases it's true, higher returns means higher risk, but not all the time. I have investments that regularly get between 15 to 30%. And I think the stock market is riskier than what I'm doing. So
Folks,
it's not always an inverse correlation.
Let that sink in, folks. You might want to listen to that a couple times. Now, folks, if you're listening right now to the show and you want to learn more about today's guest, again, what is your website, sir?
It's theprolificinvestor.net, theprolificinvestor.net.
Chris, I appreciate you lowering your standards and making the poor life decisions needed to be on today's show. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. And I promise if you're on the show again, we'll get better.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
You bet, Chris.
Take care.
Keep rocking.
Bye. And now, without any further ado, 3, 2, 1, boom!